We had heard about the sickness for weeks. Rumors of people dropping in the streets, being run over by carriages and left to rot. No one would touch them for fear of being infected. In just hours, whole villages were seeing symptoms, hundreds dead in days. I lived in a small farming village with my mother and father. We were secluded where we lived. There were only 4 houses spread over 20 miles. People from the cities would drift by on their way to safety and tell us what they'd heard about the fever. But no one else came after a while. Not even the mailman. A week, a month, 2 months passed, and we hadn't seen a soul. My father and mother decided to leave, but I told them I couldn't come. The family that lived on the last farm east was very dear to us, and they had small children. I told my mother I would go to see if they were okay and ask if they would come with me. After that, I would follow my parents south to where my aunt lived. Mother cried, but I would not be swayed. I watched them leave as the sun rose over the dirt road. I had a 20-mile walk in front of me, and so I began. There are those who doubt my story after this point. Some say I'm simply lying. Others speculate I had the fever, and what I saw was only in my mind. I know I wasn't sick. I wish it was all a terrible hallucination, but I know what happened was real. It is midnight on the 3rd of November, 1723. I am a condemned woman. I am scheduled to be hanged in the morning. I have no reasons left to lie. This document will be seen only after I'm dead. Let this be my last testament. As I walked the path, I noticed a distinct silence in the trees. Sounds I had heard all my life were simply gone. And then I heard her. She was coming down the path. A smile arched across her face. She moved lightly, almost skipping. Not a care in the world. A large crimson stain sat dark at the frayed neck of her dress. Blood. "Are you okay, miss?" I asked as she passed by. It wasn't until she was only inches from me that I recognized her. The look in her eyes and that terrible smile made it hard for me to notice at first, but now I could see it was Mrs. Shannon. She lived on the farm closest to ours. She had never been one to smile. She didn't look at me when I talked to her, only continued to sing. I assumed then that she had the illness and her mind was gone. I watched her for a few minutes and then turned and kept going. After about a minute, I looked back. She stood about 100 yards away with her back to me. Her head was turned sideways, listening. I ran the rest of the way. I arrived at the house just as the sun began to set. I knew something was wrong as soon as I laid my eyes on it. There were no cows in the pasture, no goats. I jogged to the front door and knocked. Nothing inside moved. Flies buzzed in the kitchen where dirty dishes sat out exposed. Maggots slithered on the plates, finishing what was left of a week-old dinner. A trail of blood led to the back of the house where the bedrooms were. I moved slowly. The smell was even worse here. Mr. Peters lay on the floor beside the bed. His neck was torn and blood had pooled black beneath him. He'd been dead for days. Something moved in the closet. I hadn't seen the children. I had to check. Though I have to admit at this point I was terrified. I tried to keep quiet as I opened the door. It was the eldest, James. He was cowering in the corner. I took him to his room and gave him some of the water and food I had brought. I asked him what happened. He told me the whole story. A few weeks ago, a drifter had come to town with a fever. Mrs. Shannon let him stay in her barn. He told her it wasn't the illness that made him sick now, but that he had been attacked by a vampire on the road. She thought he was delirious. After he died, she and her husband buried him in the cemetery. A few days later, Mr. Shannon told his wife he had seen the man outside. The drifter said he needed his shoes. They had fallen off while they were transporting his body. After a few moments, the man left. For the next few days, they were plagued by knocks at their door during the night. One of these nights, Mr. Shannon had enough. He went out with his gun and told the man he would shoot him if he didn't go. The man began to laugh hysterically. Mrs. Shannon didn't see what happened, but when morning came, she went out and saw her husband dead on the ground. James told me that a few days prior to my arriving, Mrs. Shannon came asking for help. She said her husband had crawled out of his grave and was trying to get into the house. James's parents turned her away, thinking she was either sick or telling the truth. Either way, they were too scared to open the door. Mrs. Shannon returned not long after. That big grin, those wild eyes, she smelled of rot. She would come in the night, sing songs outside their windows. He told me his 8-year-old sister Elizabeth was the first to die. For reasons no one could understand, she had gone out of bed just before dawn and walked outside. He remembers having dreamt of a girl screaming for help. When he awoke, he realized the sounds were real. They found her a few hours later, sitting against a tree, a few yards into the woods. All the joints in her body had been twisted the wrong way. Before they buried her, his father bound her broken wrists with a rope and salted the earth above her. After a few days of hiding in the house, they ran out of supplies and decided to leave. His mother was killed while trying to gather goats. James and his father took their guns and searched the woods for the vampire, but there was no sign of it. They left her body where it fell and followed the road north. When night came, they found themselves surrounded. They would hear laughter coming from the forest and running feet cutting across the path behind them. James swears he heard his mother calling for him to come into the woods. In a panic, they headed back to the house. His father was briefly attacked along the way, and by the time they got inside, he was just barely breathing. I asked James if he knew who it was that had killed his father, and he told me it was his sister, 6 days after she died. In the end, I decided it didn't matter if it was true or not. James was weak and needed help. There were still usable supplies at my house. We had to leave. It's safer in the day, he told me. He wouldn't budge. He wouldn't let me bury his father either, but at least he let me put the body outside. The silence was still palpable. There were no crickets, not even a gust of wind to make me feel better. It was as if someone had taken our little village and cut it out from the rest of the world. Before I went back inside, I scanned the tree line expecting to see only darkness. There was a small purple dress obscured by low branches near the edge of the forest. At first I was elated. I could tell it was Elizabeth. She was caked in dirt. I thought because she had gotten lost in the woods and finally found her way out. I took a few steps toward her. She returned the favor and started walking to me. Her bones were all broken. She limped across the road like a puppet on strings. Each step she took would tear a new piece of flesh or crack another bit of bone. With absolute horror, I studied her face. She only smiled and held out her arms to me, wrists still bound. I ran back inside. James and I barricaded ourselves in the back bedroom and waited. I turned the lantern down to just barely a spark. We sat in the dark and listened. We heard his mother calling outside. James, Mommy's waiting. I could see the tears dripping down his cheeks. Elizabeth put her eyes between the cracks in the wood. Don't you miss us, brother? James begged her to leave. She said she would, but first she had to tell him something. He leaned in near the wall and she whispered in his ear. Then she left as promised. James sat without saying a word. He picked up the lantern and raised the flame. I asked if he was okay. He opened the globe and poured the oil down his throat. In seconds, he was covered in flames. I screamed. I wanted to help him, but there was no way. The room was overcome in just moments. I rushed to escape. Smoke filled every inch of the space. I couldn't see, couldn't breathe. By the time I stumbled outside, it was almost dawn. I was so overcome by the smoke in my lungs that I lost consciousness. When I awoke, there was nothing left of the house or of James. A gash ran across my wrist. I had lost a lot of blood in the night, but I could still move. I tore a piece of my dress and wrapped the wound. When I could walk, I wandered north towards the closest town. Somewhere along the way, I heard the light and ringing of a tiny bell. I came across a cemetery and saw that the bell I was hearing was from a grave. Someone inside was pulling it as if to say they had been buried alive. I walked to it, and as I did, another bell began to ring. Then another and another. I ran and never looked back. I thought I'd hurt my wrist while leaving the house, but now I realize that while I was unconscious lying on the grass, they fed. In a few hours, I'll be put to death for something I did not do. The people here think themselves civilized. They don't believe in monsters. I tried to warn them, but they won't listen, won't take precautions. They'll bury me tonight, and tomorrow morning, I'll be ringing my own bell.
Dig deeper at sessionsx.tumblr.com.
There were 4 random strangers chosen to share in a prize of $100,000 if any one of them solved the puzzle. It started with a simple phone call. Sarah was in her office when she got the call. "Hello, this is a genuine request. You're under no obligation to say yes, but you and 3 other people are invited to take part in a puzzle. If you or any of the rest of the participants solve the puzzle, ye will all share in the prize of $100,000. That's giving ye all exactly $25,000 each. That is a nice payback for just a few minutes' work. If you would like to participate, then all you have to do is arrive at Madison Hotel on Grove Street at 6 p.m. this evening. There is an elevator on the ground floor. Just wait outside that elevator for the door to open. Then please enter with the rest of the participants. You will all know that ye are there for the puzzle, don't worry. The same phone call arrived for Jack, who was in the gym working out. Tony got his call while out walking and Mary got her call while watching TV. They all agreed to take part in the puzzle. That evening at 6 p.m, they were all waiting outside the elevator, waiting for it to open, excited with the chance of pocketing $25,000 each if any of them solved the puzzle. Suddenly the elevator doors opened, and they all stepped inside. The elevator started going up, and a voice came through the speaker. "Hello, player. Thank you very much for taking part in this puzzle that enables you to have a chance of winning $25,000 each. The question to the puzzle is simple. The floors of this hotel have various occupants at different times. Sometimes, but other times not as much. But what button in this elevator is pressed the most? If you can't answer by the time we reach the top floor, you will be shown the answer on the display in the elevator, but unfortunately you will lose out in the money. This is the most important rule. If you give a wrong answer, you will all lose the game. Good luck." The elevator started going up to the top floor. Everyone started talking about it, trying to solve the puzzle. It sounded so complicated, especially when there were different numbers of people staying in different floors at different times. Everyone knew there was 15 floors in the hotel, so Sarah shouted first floor before it hit 15. They all hoped the answer was right. Then suddenly the voice came back and said, "I am very sorry. You were very close, but the answer is ground floor, because everyone has to go to the ground floor. As promised, we will show you the answer, which is everyone has to go to the ground floor." Suddenly the elevator made a bang and started falling faster and faster, and everyone in it started screaming until it crashed to the floor, and they were all killed. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Sam was relaxing watching TV when he got a phone call from his girlfriend Ginny. She said in an excited voice, "Hi Sam, it's me. I just finished an absolutely amazing game. Well, I'm not sure could you even call it a game. It's more of a surprise or an amazing prize or something like that. I have the choice to nominate someone close to me to experience the same thing. Trust me, you'll love it. They gave me the rules. All you need to do is go down to the bus stop across the street, and under the seat, under a stone, will be an envelope with instructions till you go to a place called the Red Room. But I know it's kinda weird at the start. You get taken in a cab and are blindfolded, so you don't know where you are going exactly. I have to admit, I was totally freaked out at that stage, but when I got to the Red Room..." Sam interrupted Ginny. "Ginny, are you high or something? What is going on? What is the Red Room?" "Okay, in the envelope you will see a questionnaire. You just fill it out and then follow the instructions to get brought to this room, which is called the Red Room. It's kind of strange though, because the room is all white. There is no red in it. but I was asked about what was my favourite food, movies, books, etc., and the room was full of everything I love, and there were loads of shopping trolleys outside the room to me carry it. Trust me, you will absolutely love it. I'll show you what I have when I get home. Sam said, "You're telling me that I can go there right now to the bus stop and fill the questionnaire?" Ginny said, "Yes, right now, because you don't know what time you're going to be collected." Sam said, "Okay babe, I'm on it right now. I'll see you after this freaking weird surprise you're talking about." A few minutes later, Sam walked to the bus stop, and sure enough there was a stone with an envelope underneath. He knew he couldn't fill out the questionnaire at the bus stop, as he needed something to lean on, and he had no pen, so he brought it back to his house and filled it out. He was asked to go to a quiet road near his house and get picked up outside a gate in an hour. He was there waiting, and a car pulled up, and a person with a face covered said, "Welcome to the Red Room, where your dreams become a reality. You don't have to pay 1 cent for loads of things you could only dream to afford to buy. There will be lots of more surprises waiting for you in the Red Room." Sam was shown into the car and blindfolded, and a half-hour later his blindfold was taken off in a white room. The white room was full of everything he loved: games consoles, expensive TVs, and lots more. He then heard a voice come out of a speaker that said, "Hello, and welcome to the Red Room. Thanks very much for accepting the offer to enter the Red Room. Everything you see was chosen from the answers to your questionnaire, so we surmise you are very happy with your gifts. You now have the honour to ring a friend and nominate them to enter the Red Room. Just simply tell us their location and we will give you a meeting point to then pick up their envelope." Sam said happily, "I nominate my cousin Fred, please. He lives just around the corner from me." The voice spoke again. "Perfect. All you need to do is call your friend using your cell phone and let him know about the game and tell him to look under the same place as you did by your bus stop." Sam was very happy to make the call, and when he hung up, he heard something from the wall. He wondered what it was. Then suddenly he heard gunshots, and he was shot to bits. His blood splattered all over the white room, and he wasn't alive to find out why the white room was called the Red Room. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. My name is Simon. It was a Friday night and I was really looking forward to tonight's game. I'm a quarterback in my local high school football team, and my girlfriend is on the cheer team. There was a lot of stress this week between my girlfriend and another member of the team, Sarah, but thankfully all their trouble has been sorted out. My girlfriend Louise can be very high-strung at times. I hadn't seen my girlfriend since yesterday. I got into a huge fight with a guy, and when it was over, I just saw my girlfriend cry and run away. There must be something wrong with her phone, because when I tried to call, all I got was static. I was cheating on my girlfriend with Sarah, but my girlfriend never approached me about it, so I wasn't certain that's why they were fighting. And I know my girlfriend, and she would definitely approach me. It was time to kick off, and I was hyped up. We were playing a rival school, Moontown High School. Our team, Lime Street High School, were on top of their game this season, thankfully. But tonight's game was very important. The game started off very rough indeed. There were guys kept running for me, and it was like they were targeting me. To make matters worse, I had butterfingers because the ball just fell out of my hands once I caught it. These guys seemed to really have it in for me. I was exhausted at half time, and when I walked into the dressing room, everyone ignored me. I didn't know what was happening. Suddenly, I went out on the field and waved at my girlfriend, and she was ignoring me also, and just started cheering with the rest of her team. It was after the game I felt like I was having a nightmare when my teacher got up to speak to everyone. Okay everyone, it was a decision made by the school council that we play this game in memory of Simon, and even though we were on the edge of calling it off, we decided to play the game in Simon's memory. He was such a great student and great player. I tuned the sound of my teacher out, as now I remembered getting hit by a yellow school bus, running across the road to my girlfriend, so excited to see she was talking to Louise. I tried for weeks to get them to be friends again, and when I finally did, I got hit by a school bus. But it was then I remembered a few weeks ago we were messing with a new kid in school who was into witchcraft, and said if we wanted something to happen, we needed to sacrifice something we love. I then realised I made a pact with the new student to my girlfriend and Sarah be friends again. Then I walked up to my girlfriend and Sarah speaking. I couldn't believe what I heard my girlfriend say. I swear, I was so angry at him cheating with you, I didn't even realise I was going to push him in front of a bus. I didn't even see it coming. What if there was CCTV? I was wondering why I didn't remember her pushing me. Then the student from my school walked up to me and said, "Don't worry, this was all mapped out for you. Don't you see? I died too, but came back to life." I was shocked, wondering what he meant. Then suddenly I could hear voices and see lights. When my vision came around, I noticed there were doctors standing over me. He said, "Welcome back, kid. You're a fighter." My girlfriend came in a couple of minutes later with Sarah. My girlfriend started crying and took my hand. She whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I replied, "It's okay." I told my girlfriend a few weeks later, when I recovered, about my memories of playing the game. She said there was no game. It was called off. The strange guy from school kept telling me that he was messing about coming back to life. But after researching him online, I learned that he was brought back to life after being clinically dead after drowning. He was hailed as a miracle boy. The drowning happened a year ago. When I approached him about it, he told me it would be better to forget the whole thing, because when he decided to tell people about the sacrifice, etc., they just thought he was crazy. The boy looked confused. Then I got a phone call from my mum telling me that my girlfriend was hit by a truck. I had then realised why the boy looked confused. Then he looked shocked. He said, more than likely she hadn't known what the sacrifice would be. I got angry with the boy and shouted, "What do you mean?" Then my girlfriend walked up to me. She hadn't realised she had been killed. The boy said, "You can see dead people. That's the thing about this." My girlfriend smiled and said, "What's wrong?" I had then realised the reason I came back to life was because my girlfriend wished for me to get better, not knowing that she would sacrifice herself.